Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath. And of course, here to partake in one of Yahweh's holy feast days. When we deal with what Yahweh has set up for his feast days, we see that Yahweh has a system of order. When we talk about the 7 days of creation, he's given us 7 holy days. And then, of course, he's given us the last set of holy days. That 7th holy day comes in the 7th month. So you see that Yahweh is impeccable when it comes to order. But the adversary wants to turn that order upside down and give us all of these holidays for us to put all our time and energy and money into dealing with those things, and it ends up causing us to walk against the culture of Yahweh, our Elohim. But brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence?
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have favorite love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Now for our brothers who are watching us from other locations, we are going to make our appearance after we finish our reading. And if you want to make your appearance at the same time that we are doing ours, send your phone number to the uci.org at gmail.com. We will text you as soon as we're going out. And what you do is you're going to go out and face the east, and you're going to offer up prayers and supplications for your family and yourself, all the males, that is. And you can do that at the same time that we are doing that. So for those that are listening, send your phone number to the uci.org at gmail.com, and we will text you when we get ready to go out, so we can all do it at the same time, because we do understand that we have people that are a part of our congregation that are spread far and wide. But we're going to begin tonight in Leviticus 23, and we're going to read verses 33 through 44. Leviticus 23 and verses 33 through 44.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh.
Now, of course, what the people see, especially people who deal with New Testament only, all they see is a bunch of rules and regulations. What they don't see is how this directly coincides with being with Christ. Because we've gotten the fairy tale of whoever dies goes to Christ, you don't get the part of tabernacling is a part of being with the Mashiach. So basically, they're going to cheat the game. Basically, they just die and they already get to be with Christ. So in playing that game, you don't get to really understand the importance of the holy days and what they mean in the spirit. They just think of a bunch of natural things as far as rules and regulations. But as we go through this, you'll understand, as we discuss tabernacling with Yahshua, how this is, there's a reason why it is the last holy day. At the end of the day, it is the most special. This is the one that spiritually means you being with Christ. And these are the things that church has never talked to us about, have never dealt with us about. Go ahead.
Verse 35. On the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
Right. So here it is. The beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles is the Sabbath. So this is why every time that we do anything, it will always be after sundown. This is when the day begins. This day is a Sabbath. From sundown now, what just came, to sundown tomorrow is a Sabbath. That is the whole day. Go ahead.
7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein.
Servile work is work that you get paid for. So Yahweh has set aside this whole week. Let me tell you how the adversary sets up things and put things in its place. You know, we didn't really have that much money, so we dealt with, growing up, we dealt with Christmas as one day. But y'all remember them songs? On the 12th day of Christmas. Wait a minute. They had their little weekly festivals. They had stuff that lasted more than one day. Well, the adversary had to give some something in the place of Yahweh's holy things. See? We just never did it like that because we couldn't do it like that. But other people did. Go ahead.
Verse 37. These are the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day. Besides the Shabbats of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings, which you give unto Yahweh, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yahweh 7 days. On the first day shall be a Shabbat, and on the 8th day shall be a Shabbat.
You notice Yahweh keeps saying he's repetitive with his instructions, because we hard to hear when it come right down to it. And if we don't have the things in multiple places, then you have those legalists who come out and try to implement their own things in the middle. Now, we know that Yahshua has become a perfect sacrifice to us. So the meal that we eat is not a sacrifice. We've already had a perfect sacrifice. So when we get into the things about the sacrifice, those things are already accomplished. We don't have to do those. But the gathering part, we do have to do. Go ahead.
And you shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days.
Now, when you deal with these things and all of Israel coming to do this, they needed to do this for the sheer thing of lack of room. You talking about everybody doing this, everybody coming out of Egypt, everybody leaving where they are to come and keep these holy days. You're talking about where all these people going to be housed. And this is what it's going to be eventually. It's going to be so many of us doing this. But when it gets down to us having to do this in the daughter of Babylon, you know, we don't have the ability to be off. Some of y'all just got off just a couple minutes ago. And you talking about trying to talk to your folks, tell them at the job you need a week off. What are you talking about? What? Okay, go what? So you can go do what? What church you go to? You have all kind of issues. It's hard enough trying to get all the other ones off that are Sabbath, much less all 7, and they're not all Sabbaths. As we've read, the beginning is a Sabbath, and the last day is a Sabbath. The rest of the days are not Sabbaths. So that's going to be really, really difficult to explain to the boss that you need these days off. Go ahead.
And you shall keep it a feast unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And Moshe declared unto the children of Israel the feast of Yahweh.
Now, these are things that we are going to have the opportunity to do in its entirety. We also have to deal with the different names that we find in here. When you talk about tabernacling, you'll find one called the Feast of Ingathering, which in Strong's is H614, which is harvest. And then you'll find Tabernacles, which is Sukkah, pronounced Sukkah, which is thicket, covert, or booth. So you'll find Feast of Booths, or you'll find Ingathering, or Tabernacles. So when you're dealing with that, you'll come up with different names. Don't let it throw you, because it is listed by different names. And also when we deal with that, you'll see on this graphic, you see all of these men standing there to present themselves. You have to consider this is the situation that we're going to be headed for. We know that when these people go and they keep Christmas, man, you can't even find nobody on the street. Police don't even give you no ticket. You can drive by the police doing 100. He like, I ain't messing with you. I ain't got time to be fooling with you today. They don't even mess with you. Streets empty. Traffic is wonderful. Because all of those people have already gotten to their either Christmas breakfast or they on their way to their Christmas dinner. So they go all out when it's time to do those things. And we know when we participated in them, we did the same thing. But you look, if all of these men are in this place, how much is it a surety that everything else is shut down? Ain't nothing else going on. This is why Yahweh say, when you go up to make your appearance, I'm gonna make it that no man desires your land. Because as we all converge on one place, we're leaving everything else empty. Yahweh said, I'm gonna protect your stuff when you go and do that. So that lets you know just how much attention is going to be paid in doing that. Our next thing when we deal with that is making our appearance before Yahweh. We understand that when we had to make our appearance in the beginning, he said, sanctify yourself against the third day. Wash your clothes. There was a certain way that you had to come and present yourself before Yahweh. Understand, we are kind of spoiled in having changes of raiment. You have to consider that every time the cloud and the fire move, they move. They wasn't lugging around a huge closet every time they move. So we want the biggest closet. We got walk-in closet. We got his and her walk-in closet. Imagine trying to move all that every time they move. Every time the cloud move, you in that walk-in closet got to move. So Yahweh say, you getting ready to make an appearance before me? Wash your clothes. Sanctify yourself. And then come make your appearance. And when we deal with the priests, there was a reason they had a basin. They had this place to wash before he went in to go into the most holy. He had to first of all dress a certain way, but then he had all of these things to wash at before he did it. To go and wash your feet, go and wash yourself before you go and do this service. And we don't see the spiritual connection to why Yahshua ended up telling them, wash your feet. Wash one another's feet. This is something that we do every Passover. Had never heard of it until I got in the Word. There's no way you were going to tell me that I was going to wash some other man's feet. And I was going to let some man wash mine. Christ said, do you understand what I've done unto you? Do you understand what I've done unto you? They didn't. He said, this you need to do to one another. This is how we help cleanse one another. So these little things that people think are rituals, Christ just didn't make that up and tell them to wash their feet. This is something that was a laver. He told them, build a laver of brass right outside, the most holy place. It was set there. So Christ just didn't grab something out of thin air. It was already there. What we have to understand is the spiritual implication of those things and what they mean. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy 16. And let's read verses 13 through 17.
Verse 13. You shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that you have gathered in your corn and your wine.
Right. And we were told before coming into the word that we were just too holy to even drink wine. You have many church going people that they find out you drinking wine, they got a problem with you already. You drinking? Yet when Yahweh has these offerings, he says, bring this, and then he's got a certain amount of wine that's supposed to come along with the animal. He says, bring me the best of your liquors. What do you think they were going to do? Pull it out for the homies? No, they drinking that. But we find that these wine and liquors help cleanse your body of all the meat that you're about to eat in those offerings. Yahweh got a system. We just think our system is better than his. That's the problem. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and your maidservant.
Now pay attention.
And the Levite, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within your gates.
So the people that are within your gates, even if they are strangers, they're still supposed to get the ability to rejoice with you in all of this substance that you have gathered. And a lot of times, we territorial. So, sometimes we get mad and we see somebody we don't know. What you doing here? Who told you we was finna party? Yahweh said that's what we're supposed to do with our substance. Go ahead.
7 days shall you keep a solemn feast unto Yahweh your Elohim in the place which Yahweh shall choose. Because Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in all your increase, and in all the works of your hands. Therefore you shall surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose. In the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty.
And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Go ahead.
Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you.
That means that nobody can tell you what it is you're supposed to give. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you. So every man shall give as he is able. Now we are accustomed to watching things on television where the people tell you how much money they want you to give, and we have gotten so accustomed to that we think that's normal. I've even had situations where females wanted to come and do things, and when I read what was set forth, that it was the males that were supposed to do that, some people didn't like that too much. But this is what the word says, and what ends up going on is a lot of times we're given what we're given so that people can make merchandise of us. So they wasn't turning down any offerings, but these things have an order. Yahweh has set forth the men to be leaders of their houses and take responsibility for things that happen in their houses, and that order cannot be turned upside down. Even though man has turned that upside down here in the flesh, it won't be in the spirit. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31. And let's read verses 14 through 22.
Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 14. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Behold, your days approach that you must die. Call Yahshua, and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the congregation, that I might give him a charge. And Moshe and Yahshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. And Yahweh appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of the cloud stood over the door of the tabernacle. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Behold, you shall sleep with your fathers, and this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them.
Right. He said we will. Not, that we might do this. This people will rise up and go a whoring. When you talk about Yahweh, Yahweh says, I'm married unto you. So going on to worship those other gods is straight adultery. He says they will go a whoring. And this is not how we looked at those holidays. We didn't look at holidays as a festival of whoredom. But that's exactly what it was. And this is why that Christian church is called that great whore. Why? Because she worships every god under there. That's not one God that's being worshipped on Sunday morning. See, Easter was one God. Valentine's Day was another God. Christmas was another God. All of these were people who worship different gods. They found a way to grab all of those things, push them inside of the name of Christianity, and tell people that it was a part of Christian life. Although when we open this book, we can't find none of it. So it didn't have anything to do with what was given unto us. But because of that name and being accepting this so-called name of Christianity, all the worship of all of those gods were thrown in there. So then you have, and that may hurt people's feelings that they are worshiping this great whore. But at the end of the day, this is why he says they will go a whoring. This is how we went a whoring. It's not like we just worship one God. See, we think that, we came out of Sunday church because we were worshiping another God. No, you were worshiping many other gods. You weren't worshiping one. You was worshiping a whole bunch of them. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 17. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I'll forsake them, and I'll hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our Elohim is not among us? And I'll surely hide my face in that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned unto other gods. Now therefore write you this song for you, and teach it the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel.
And anybody know, there's that thing where they say if you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. But if you want Israel to know something, put it in a song. We can't remember jack. You tell the kids to do something, they can't remember that you told them to do anything. But I tell you what, put it in a song, your kids will be singing the instruction. Take out the trash. Wash the dishes. What the kid doing? This the only thing they can remember. Yahweh know what amount of people he dealing with. Put it in a song. That way, it ain't never gonna lead him. Go ahead.
For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swear unto their fathers, that flows with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves, and waxen fat, then will they turn unto other gods, and serve them, and provoke me, and break my covenant. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination which they go about, even now, before I brought them into the land which I swear. Moshe therefore wrote this song the same day and taught it the children of Israel.
All right, let's go to Yohanan, John chapter 7. And we're going to read verses 1 through 15.
Verse 1. After these things Yahshua walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Uri, because the Yehudis sought to kill him. Now the Yehudis' feast of tabernacles was at hand.
Right, but you have a lot of people that's telling you they don't know what is a feast of tabernacles, but they have been reading nothing but the New Testament. At some point when they got to this part, they should have been asked, excuse me, Pastor, what's that? Excuse me, Bible study teacher, what's that? Somebody should have been asking some questions and somebody should have been explaining something. And you find, even in the book of Acts, after the Messiah's birth, death, and resurrection, Saul is still making his trip to go back to Jerusalem to keep the feast. Why are you doing that if Christ nailed it all to the cross? Because Christ gone. But he making his trip, and it's a hard trip to go all the way back to go and make his appearance. See? That was why he said, I must needs go to this feast in Jerusalem. Why? Because he had to make his appearance. And he wasn't going to miss that. You read Job chapters 1 and 2, Lucifer didn't miss it. It says, and there was a time when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves, and Satan, Lucifer, came also. So the angels have days that they have to make an appearance. What we have been given is a small representation of the things that are in heaven. So Lucifer knows that you're supposed to make your appearance. He making his. But he gonna trick you and tell you not to keep yours. That's what he did to us. All the time. He make every appearance that he's supposed to show up in heaven. And he been telling us otherwise the entire time. Now that's the definition of a deceiver. Why he tells you don't go, and he already there. I was you, I wouldn't even go to that thing. What's that in the background? Oh, that's Yahweh talking. I'll talk to you later. Wait a minute. So you there? You there? Go ahead.
Verse 3. His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence and go into Judea, that your disciples also may see the works that you do. For there is no man that does anything in secret, and he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world. For neither did his brethren believe him. Then Yahshua said unto them, My time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world cannot hate you, but me it hates, because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil.
Right. Same thing gonna happen to you. When you show up dressed the way you're supposed to be dressed, the world got a problem with you. Because it automatically shines light that they not dressed the way they supposed to be dressed. When they start trying to offer you a pork chop and you don't take it, well, why you won't eat this pork chop? Because, that's God's garbage disposal. That's what he made to clean the earth. It can eat anything and not die. Can crush bone in his mouth. Everything. Eat up a whole body. You've never seen that. Eat the shoes, the clothes, everything. Oh, I ended a conversation like that right there just a few days ago. People don't know that, and we've gotten accustomed to partaking in this filthy beast that people are amazed that. So we can't eat that? And automatically that then becomes a part where if their spirit is not right, then they start to hate you for those things. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Go you up unto the feast. I go not up yet unto the feast, for my time is not yet full come.
So wait a minute. So Christ then told them to go to the Feast of Tabernacles. But your pastor ain't told you nothing about going to Feast of Tabernacles before we got here. It says Christ is our example, right? So we're supposed to do what he did. He kept the Sabbath. He kept his father's holidays. Then he's telling the disciples, go up to the Feast of Tabernacles. If it ain't nothing to deal with, why is he telling them to go? Go ahead.
When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee.
Now, he running one of these things that my elder did on me. He said, go you up onto the feast. I go not up. But you go ahead. Now keep reading.
But when his brethren were gone up, then went he also up onto the feast.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff my elder used to do to me. Yeah, go ahead, son. I'm on my way. Then I get there, he ain't there. Man, you told me you were coming. Then he run one of them parables on me. I was there because you was there. Man, stop playing with me. Yahshua operate. He always teaching. Constantly. Everything come out of his mouth. He dealing on a whole nother level than what they understand at that point. They'll get it later. Go ahead.
Not openly, but as it were in secret. Then the Yehudis sought him at the feast, and said, Where is he? And there was much murmuring among the people concerning him. For some said, He is a good man. Others said, No, but he deceives the people. Howbeit no man spake openly of him for fear of the Yehudis. Now about the midst of the feast Yahshua went up into the temple, and taught. And the Yehudis marveled, saying, How know this man letters, having never learned?
Right. So he tells them to go up. I go not up. Then he waits into the middle and starts teaching. So he not only did he go, but he's going and he's stirring up things at this Feast of Tabernacles. But you'll understand that this is the spiritual implication of the real resurrection. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 14. See, there's a reason why he put this in the 7th month. See, each thing leads into the next thing. So you have to have this Passover. You have to then go through this atonement to have your sins atoned. See, there's one thing about forgiveness, as we've discussed before, and then the next level of atonement, which is reconciliation. To have something reconciled is to have your account clean. See, somebody might forgive you for something, but to have your account clean is something altogether different. So there have to be atonement before you can tabernacle. And that's in the spirit. This is something that's leading to a greater spiritual thing. There has to be atonement, then there's going to be tabernacling. Zechariah 14, and let's read verses 1 through 19.
Behold, the day of Yahweh comes, and your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle.
Now, there's a big difference in between that time frame of one thing where they're going to invade, and then there's a big space in between, and Yahweh shall then go and fight against those nations. Go ahead.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south.
Right. And this valley is made for war. It is a very good defensive position. Verse 4, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. When you read in the book of Acts, it says, you men, why you stand gazing up into heaven? After Yahshua went up into heaven, they said, in the same way, in the same manner that he left, in the same manner shall he return. And you read down a couple of more lines, it says, and from the Mount of Olivet is where they were. So the scripture already told you where he gonna return to. So when you see the rednecks on TV telling you that we just saw Jesus in Kansas, don't buy no ticket. He not going there. His feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives. They got several different places where people pay money to go and visit these folk backyard, because they believe they saw Christ somewhere else they done seen some picture of Mary. Hey, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, and it's going to bust that in half and make a valley there. But people are all into signs. People are all into visions. And you have to be careful, because the adversary will use that and direct you right where you don't need to be. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yes, you shall flee, like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Yehudah. And Yahweh my Elohim shall come, and all the saints with you. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light.
And if any of y'all were, was paying attention when that eclipse came, it was a strange looking day. It was some strange. It got dark for a little period of time, and then got back light. But it started. If you're not careful, that kind of stuff even affect your body, because your body started getting confused. Wait, is it nighttime or not? I mean, it got to the point where looking was strange. You couldn't even really see that good as it was getting dark and then going back to light. And that's nothing compared to what we're going to encounter. Go ahead.
Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 8. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahweh, and his name one.
Right. So there then has to be, when the Messiah is coming to set forth and he makes that great battle. It says in verse 3, said, then Yahweh shall go forth and fight against those nations. This is atonement. Atonement, there's a sacrifice. There's blood that has to be shed to make atonement for the children of Israel. Well, the earth has to go through atonement. So just like everything else, there's atonement, then there's tabernacle. Go ahead.
Verse 10. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Ramon, south of Jerusalem. And it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place, from Benjamin's gate onto the place of the first gate, onto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel onto the king's wine presses. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Yehudah also shall fight at Jerusalem.
Now, there's going to have to be a lot of things. The children of Israel are going to have to come out of all the various lands that we have been scattered to. But at this point, and Yehudah shall also fight at Jerusalem. This is why we have to be sanctified and separated for those 3.5 years. Sanctification is given in threes. When he says sanctify yourself against the third day. So then you talk about Israel being sanctified, set apart from all the other nations in that time. And then at that point, you are sanctified and able to participate in this holy war. Go ahead.
And the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
So everybody, all of the nations, everyone that is left, there's going to be so much killing that everybody who's left are going to have to come up to Jerusalem from year to year to worship the King and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This is how Israel is going to be taken care of. All the nations are going to have to send their highest and best representatives to come and make an appearance before Yahweh, and no man shall come empty Every man must give as he is able. So understand, you got people coming to make an appearance from countries. And it's something that we don't consider. All of the stars now go to Dubai and all of this. That's the rich people playground now. Well, you have to go and see how the kids of those people live. How they get free this and free that because of how much wealth is spread amongst their country. That's going to be nothing compared to what Israel is going to have. All the nations are going to have to come up and give that offering. The very thing that we are doing, we're going to be receiving the offering from nations. An offering from a nation is quite substantial. This is why Yahweh said, the sons of the aliens shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. You ain't cutting no grass. Somebody else going to have to cut that grass. Go ahead.
Verse 17. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain.
Right. So now then Yahweh is going to start to punish every nation who will not serve you. Go ahead.
And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles.
Right, because it is set forth as this order. All of the earth have done their whole thing, and Yahweh is going to make the whole earth to understand that it was He that removed the hedge from round about us. That they could have never done anything to you if Yahweh had not removed the hedge from around you. Go ahead.
This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles.
Right. Yet we have, and this is the future, the beginning of this talks about Armageddon, and we know that Armageddon has not happened. And we see that we're talking about the future time with Christ after his return, that every nation is going to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So then you have to ask yourself a question. How do you keep tabernacles without keeping anything else? Tabernacles in the last month. It's the last feast. How do you keep the last one without keeping the first one? Each one leads to the next one. You can't keep tabernacles if you haven't kept Passover. How do you even know what it is? See, Yahweh has a way of dealing with things. Because he knows how we are. If he told us we didn't have to, I'm going to make it all the nations come up to keep Passover. That's in the beginning. We'll keep Passover and disappear to the next year. So Yahweh says, I'm going to make them to come up and keep tabernacles. So if they got to keep the one in the 7th month, and to know what that is, you got to count all the new moons. You have brothers who have gone to churches and other places, and they start looking at the things that we put out, and they say, man, I've never even heard of a new moon. But I told them there's no way to have any holy days without knowing of a new moon. That means those people knew of the new moon, they just didn't tell you. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14, and let's start with verses 1 through 8.
For Yahweh will have mercy on Yaakov, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land.
And I keep telling people this, the redemption of the children of Israel is all about being set in our own land. See, we got that fairy tale thing of going to heaven. That was passed on to us by the adversary himself, because that's his desire to rule in heaven. He was supposed to be dealing with things in the garden. He didn't want to deal with the things in the garden. And just like our kids, when you get them something to do and they don't want to do it, they purposely do it wrong, hoping you'll say, well, never mind, boy. You're not helping them. No, you gotta sit down now, grab your chair, sit down. No. We're gonna do this. I'll take the whole thing apart. Break it all the way down. We're gonna start right over. Give me a cup of coffee. This is gonna take a minute. Now you got to inconvenience yourself to learn to make sure they learn how to do what they're supposed to be doing right. Because if you let them half do it, and then you say, well, move out the way, boy, I got it. They just played you. Inconvenience yourself. Hit record on your little show. No, I'll have to watch that later. Come on. Let's get into this. And if it take all night, I have been known to wake people up. Wait. Tell them to do something. Go into another room. Wait. No, they're not going to do it. Wait till 2 a.m. What's happening? Let's go take care of this business. What? Oh, you don't know that time. Let's go. Let's go take care of this business. At 2 o'clock in the morning. If you was at the club, you wouldn't be talking about it. You was sleeping. Right. So, Lucifer's supposed to be doing his thing in the garden, but instead of doing what he's supposed to be doing, he's trying to sabotage man because he don't want to be on earth. And you'll see where we got that little fairy tale of going to heaven. Go ahead.
And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Yaakov. Verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Right. And the people who call themselves the Jews, they don't have any oppressors, anybody who has ruled over them. So we know that this couldn't even possibly fit them. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give you rest from your sorrow, and from your fear, and from the hard bondage wherein you was made to serve, that you shall take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Yahweh has broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in anger with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hinders. The whole earth is at rest, and is quiet. They break forth into singing.
The whole earth is at rest. When have we seen that? See, now you're starting to see the connection with Tabernacles, the redemption of the children of Israel, and the imprisonment of Lucifer. All of those things go hand in hand. Go ahead.
Yes, the fir trees rejoice at you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you are laid down, no fellers come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you, even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto you, are you also become as weak as we? Are you become like unto us? Your pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of your vials, the worm is spread unto you, and the worms cover you. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations?
So, in the process of time, what Yahweh is doing is turning the adversary, the devil, into the very thing that he hated, which was a man. He was sent here to oversee the things in the garden of man. He hated man. And in the process of time, this is what Yahweh is turning him into. Amen. Go ahead.
For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
And this is where we get the fairy tale that we're going to go to heaven. We get it from him. Because that's what he wants. He don't want to work in the garden. Go ahead.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see you shall narrowly look upon you, and consider you, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house.
Everyone in his own house, all of the people back in the lands that they came from. See, we think all of this land and people mixing is a normal thing. Yahweh had already set the nations where they were supposed to be. In the beginning, remember, everybody was of one language. It was Yahweh that split the nations up. He said, look, I lead these people along, and this is what they begin to do. All of them are able to communicate, and look at what kind of evil they've been able to do with them being able to communicate one with another. Turn around, take that ability to communicate away from them, and let them stay to themselves. That was Yahweh's doing. And what does man do constantly? Try to conquer all other lands and put them together to make a one world government. So the very thing that Yahweh set up, man is constantly trying to circumvent it. Go ahead.
Verse 19. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. You shall not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land, and slain your people, the seed of evildoers that shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the lawlessness of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
Right. Prepare slaughter for his children. There are many millions of accidental children of the adversary, the devil. They don't know it. They don't know that's what they're doing. The Messiah told the Pharisees, it says, you are of your father the devil, and the works of your father you will do. But these were top people in the priesthood. He still said that they were children of the adversary, the devil, because of the things that they did. So they didn't knowingly make any choice to follow the adversary, the devil. They just followed the dictates of the things that he set up. And you are the sons and daughters of whoever it is you obey. You obey Lucifer, that's your daddy. Simple as that. You obey Yahweh, then he your daddy. Go ahead.
Verse 22. For I will rise up against them, says Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, says Yahweh. I will also make it a possession for the bittern, and pools of water, and I'll sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts.
So when we deal with that, then now we got the destruction of Babylon. We have the redemption of the children of Israel, and the imprisonment of the adversary, the devil, all going hand in hand. So these holy days are not just about us showing up and going through the motions. Your ultimate spiritual freedom is connected to this. This is why the adversary doesn't want us to deal with these things. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20, and let's read verses 1 through 8.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
So now, with him bound this 1,000 years, now there's a sabbatical kingdom. There is 1,000 years of peace on earth. Nobody can then say, well, the devil made me do it. No, he ain't there. Go right there in that hole. Go on, come see him. Come on, let's go over there and look at the devil. You know how it used to be, look, you was getting in trouble for this. You'd had one of the little mean dogs chained to tree or something, they'll lock you up for doing that now. And the kids be throwing rocks at the dog, cause the dog be done got loose and be done chase people or whatever. When they finally get him back on that chain, kids go over there and be throwing rocks at the dog. Cause they know he chained up. He can't do nothing. And them grown-ups come out there, hey man, y'all better stop. Cause if he get loose, y'all gonna get tore up. Well, knowing all the hell that Lucifer done caused, and you go over there and see him with that chain, it gonna be a little smack talking. That's why I said, is this the man? You don't look like much. You the one that been causing all this trouble. How far did that chain go up? Right. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season.
If you read all of these things, it says, okay, there's this Feast of Tabernacles, and then after this, there's another Sabbath. It starts with a Sabbath. It ends with the Sabbath. In this whole thing, now you got two resurrections. It says there's a first resurrection, and then there's a second resurrection. The first resurrection is with the Mashiach. That's the 1,000 years of peace. It says, in such, the second death has no power if you live through the first one. So you have all of the people who we have been bewitched into believing that we have to die to be with Christ. Christ in the tabernacle. He's in that sabbatical kingdom of 1,000 years. That's where we got to get to be with him. Not die. But see, when you're given that thing, how do you think it's so easy for some people to tell somebody to duct tape a bomb to them, and when they wake up, they're going to have 7 virgins in the sky? What? So you got to blow yourself up to get to your God. I ain't gonna sin. Ain't gonna work out. See, that's that thing. This didn't come from here. We don't have to die to see our Mashiach. We got to be in that first resurrection. That's where he gonna be. See, somebody has lied to us over and over and over. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years.
They are tabernacling. They are tabernacling in peace without the influence of the adversary, the devil. He can't mess with nobody. He in that hole. He chained in the hole. He can't bother anybody. If anybody's sin, they can't say, the devil made me do it. No, you did that because that's what you wanted to do. Because that he go over there. Ain't nobody deceive you. You deceive yourself. You can't blame nothing on him. Go ahead.
But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
Right. Now, up at the top of that page, it says, them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads. Understand, there's no concept of time when one dies, because it's sleep. So it might have been 2,000-3,000 years since they died. It's gonna seem like yesterday when they wake up. And now they're able to reign with Christ 1,000 years. So this in itself erases this whole thought process that they were already with Christ. They're not with him until the first resurrection. So see, something wrong with that lie that we have been told. I know He up there looking down on me right now. Right. That's not what this book say. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of the Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison.
Now he's loosed out of his prison after the tabernacling is over. Go ahead.
And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
Russia and China. Go ahead.
Want to continue?
Yeah, keep going.
And they went up to the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints, about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven, and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand
small and great, go ahead,
stand before Elohim, and the books were opened.
Right. So all of this fairy tale that we were given, that everybody is already up in heaven. No, now these people are being resurrected, but they're resurrected after tabernacles. They have been woken up after the 1,000 years with Christ. That ain't the time to be awakened. Go ahead.
And the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
Right, because a lot of people burn their body and then spread their ashes all along the water. Yahweh gonna send them angels to go pick up every bit of that ash and put them right there. There you go, stand right there. Go ahead.
And death and the grave delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works.
Death and hell, the grave, delivered up the dead. Remember now, they have this thing where they call All Hallows Eve, which is the night of the living dead. This is why all the Halloween costumes were skeletons and people with one eye hanging out and all this kind of stuff. These were people who crawled out of their grave. Yahweh like, oh, you ain't got to celebrate it. I got a day for you that all the dead gonna come out. Don't worry about it. But I guarantee you won't be trying to give them no candy. Go ahead.
And death and the grave were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
Right. So then when we deal with this, we then understand that thing where it is spoken of this marriage supper of the Lamb. And you understand being this a true bride of the Mashiach and going through all of the things that we must go through so that we can get that wedding garment. To have that wedding garment means to truly be clothed with the Spirit. As it is written, how did this person get in here without a wedding garment? You shall not be able to tabernacle with Christ without that Spirit. On our own, none of us are going to make it. We don't have the ability to make it on our own. This is why Yahweh has even set forth these situations where we wash one another's feet, where we help cleanse one another. You don't have the ability to do it on your own. So Yahweh has given us these holy days. These things are directly connected to the redemption and the true freedom of the children of Israel. So let us deal with these things wholeheartedly, because ultimately the appearance that we make, the offerings that we give, when we talk about being in our own land, having houses that we didn't build, having all of these things set up that we didn't have to do, we're going to be the recipients of nations coming up to show respect unto us and our Elohim. But it's his way of setting forth that order, and making the whole earth understand what they've done to you and who you truly are. Understand, as all of these males go out to make their appearance, we go out and we face the east, we remove our head covering, and we offer our prayers for ourselves and for our families. I pray that Yahweh will hear and accept every last one of us, and remember that we are not perfect. We are just men, learning this word, learning the culture that our forefathers walked away from. So, as it is written, all males must make an appearance, and let none come empty. Like I've said many a times, if that's $1, you make sure you do not come before Yahweh empty. As it is written, and you'll find when you look at how the presidents go from place to place, they always present one another with a gift. You never go before a king empty-handed. See, there's royalty things that we have to learn. We didn't think we had to learn them because we didn't think we were royalty. It's hard to talk to a slave and tell them that they're royalty. It's hard to explain that to a slave. And if you still got that slave mindset, it's going to be very difficult to get those things across to you. But consider that, and all of the people who have sent their phone numbers, we will be texting you. We're probably going to go out in about, I want to say 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to say right around 9:40, be ready to make your appearance. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Enjoy your feast. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.